Hello everyone, I welcome you back to Legum Sessions. So I hope that you all are doing good, staying safe in your houses during this COVID-19 situation. So as we all know that we cannot compromise on our studies. So here I have come up with yet another interesting video for you guys. So today we'll talk about the general defenses which are available under the law of torts. To begin with, we know that these defenses are always available to the defendant, which means that whenever the plaintiff files a suit against the defendant for damages for the injuries which have been caused to him because of the act which is done by the defendant, so in those situations, the defendant has an option to claim these defenses. So he can plead that the act done by him was under any of these general defenses, and if he is successful in proving this before the court, then definitely he will not be held liable to pay the damages or the compensation to the plaintiff for the wrongful act which has been done by him. So moving on, we begin with different kind of defenses. So here in this video I'm going to talk about, there are basically 7 to 8 defenses which are available to the defendant under the law of torts. So let's begin with it. All right, so the very first general defense that we're going to discuss is very common and important part of the law of torts. It is voluntae non fit injuria. Now, voluntae means consent and injuria means injury. So, in short, this general defense says that where the plaintiff himself has given his consent to suffer the injury which has resulted from the act of the defendant, then later on he cannot sue the defendant to pay the damages or compensate him for the injuries that have been suffered. So it means that even though the act which is done by the defendant, it is tortious in nature, it is wrongful in nature, but since it has been done with the consent of the plaintiff, while he gave his consent for that act, he very well knew that some kind of injury is involved and there is a possibility that that injury will be caused to him. But still, he has given his consent to suffer that very injury, so later on he will not be allowed to sue the defendant to compensate him for the same. So we can say that the basic principle or the idea behind this very general defense is that where a man is in part author of his own injury, then later on he cannot expect other party to compensate him. So here where the plaintiff is in part the author for the injury which has been suffered by him, later on he cannot be allowed to sue the defendant and he cannot ask the defendant to compensate him for the same. But here there is one limitation of this rule, which says that the consent of the party, that is the plaintiff, it must be free. Now what is free consent? We'll understand that. Free consent simply means that the consent of the plaintiff should not have been obtained by coercion, fraud, undue influence or misrepresentation. So if in case the consent of the plaintiff has been obtained under any of these 4 situations, then his consent will not be considered to be a free consent, and in these situations this defense of voluntae will not be available to the defendant. So the consent has to be free. The consent must be given by the plaintiff out of his own choice and should not be induced by the defendant. This is very important. Now next, similar to this very voluntae is another legal maxim which says sentae non fit injuria. Now this basically means that mere having knowledge is different from giving your consent. So you need to understand that there is a difference between having knowledge about the injury and giving your consent to suffer that injury. So it is important for voluntae non fit injuria that there has to be a consent. Simply having knowledge is something different and giving your consent is something different. What we are concerned with is the actual consent must have been given. Just because a person has knowledge does not mean that he has given his consent to also suffer the injury. I would illustrate this with a very simple example. For example, there are certain workers who are working on the railway tracks. Now, in this situation, the workers always have knowledge that there is a risk involved that any train could come over and run over them. So, here they have knowledge about the injuries, but this does not mean that they have consented to that injury. So, if in a situation any train comes and runs over them, in that situation, this particular defense cannot be availed by the defendant. Reason being because in this situation there is only knowledge and not specific consent. So remember, mere senti is not voluntae, which means mere having knowledge about the injury does not amount to consent. And until and unless it will amount to consent, the defense is not available. So it is important the consent has to be there, the consent has to be free, and mere knowledge will not amount to any defense being available to the defendant. Now, another important point is that the defense of voluntae is not available in the cases of the rescue. So, in rescue cases, the defendant cannot claim this defense of voluntae. So this means that a wrongful act has been done by the defendant, and that act has created a dangerous situation. It has put some other person under some danger, and the plaintiff, seeing that person in danger, risks his own life to save the life of such other person. So these are known as rescue cases. So while rescuing such person, if the plaintiff suffers any kind of injury, he has a right to sue the defendant. And in these cases, the defendant cannot claim the defense of voluntae. The defendant cannot say that the plaintiff himself had given his consent to suffer the injury. I never told him to go and rescue the person concerned. So in rescue cases, this defense is not available. The reason is very much simple, because whenever a person is in danger and another person sees that, rescuing that person is something which is very spontaneous in nature. So danger always invites rescue, and cry of distress is always a summon to relief. So in these cases, the defendant will have to pay the damages, and he will have to compensate the plaintiff for the injuries which have been suffered by him. So this was our very first general defense, that was voluntae non fit injuria. Now we move on to our second general defense, which is vis major, that is act of God. Now this defense says that where the act of the defendant, it has resulted from some natural forces which were totally out of the control of the defendant. So in those cases, the defendant can defend himself. For example, extraordinary rainfall, floods, storm, earthquakes have taken place. So these are those acts which are beyond human contemplation and beyond human control. So which were totally out of the control of the defendant, which were totally extraordinary in nature. The act was such, which was not within human contemplation. One could not even think that such kind of act would happen. So in these cases, if any kind of injury is caused to the plaintiff, then the defendant can plead this defense, that is the defense of vis. Now these are certain requirements of this very defense. Firstly, the activity should be a result of natural cause, that is the defendant should not be involved into it. Any kind of human intervention should not be there. It should be extraordinary in nature. For example, extremely heavy rainfall takes place, like that. And also it must not be within human contemplation. So we can say like the tsunami, that it can be considered to be the best example, because it was never within human contemplation. It was something which was completely extraordinary in nature, and obviously it was not within the control of the human beings as well. So these are those situations where the act of the defendant is totally out of his control. It is the act of God. The natural forces are involved, available as a defense. And this is also known as damnum fatal. Known that because question can come on this thing as well. Alright, so the next defense we will talk about is inevitable accident. Now, inevitable accident means something which could not have been avoided by the defendant, even though due care and caution was exercised by him. So here you have to, apply the objectivity test, which means that you have to see from the viewpoint of an ordinary prudent person. And if an ordinary prudent person placed under the similar circumstances as that of the defendant, if he would have also acted in the same manner, if he would have also not been able to avoid the happening of those acts, then this defense will be available to the defendant. So inevitable does not mean that it must be completely inevitable. Inevitable basically means that something which could not have been avoided, even if proper care, due care and caution and attention is exercised by the defendant, but still the act was beyond his control. Whatever degree of caution and care you exercise, but still the act was such which was bound to happen, that is known as an inevitable accident. Whether it was a defendant or you place any other person in the similar circumstances and the situations as that of the defendant, but still the act was such which was bound to happen, anyways it was ultimately going to happen only. So that is what is inevitable accident, and the defendant can plead this before the court as well, that his act was actually a mishap in nature. You can also refer to the case law of Stanley versus Powell if you want to have more knowledge about the concept of inevitable accident. Now, the next general defense is the defense of necessity. Now, necessity is also available as a defense under your IPC under section 81. Now, remember one thing, that necessity knows no law. So if the defendant is able to prove before the court that the act done by him was out of necessity, which basically means that if he would have not done that act, some other bigger loss or injury would have resulted. That is what is known as necessity, or we can say the circumstantial compulsion was there on the part of the defendant. So here you have to prove, if we have to prove that the act which was done by the defendant, definitely it resulted in some harm or injury, but that harm or injury was necessary to be caused so as to prevent another injury or another loss or harm which was extremely big in nature. So this is what is the defense of necessity, and the court is always very much cautious while it has to analyze as to whether actual necessity was there or not. Even though the act is done is under necessity, but still it is important that the defendant must always be acting in good faith. Malified intention should not be there on his part. This is the general defense of necessity. Next is the private defense. Now, private defense simply says that law always permits a person to protect his own body and property, and also the body and property of some other person also. Now, this private defense is also available as a general defense under your IPC. Now, remember one thing, that this general defense of private defense is not absolute in nature, which means that there are certain conditions which are always imposed, and the court will always take into consideration those circumstances and those conditions. Because if this private defense is not controlled, then it would become very much difficult to control the human activity, because in these cases the defendant will always try to bring his act under the purview of private defense. That is why it is not made completely absolute. It is always restricted in nature. So how it is restricted and how it is controlled is something to be discussed in detail. So if required sometime in future, I will definitely upload a separate session which will discuss in detail this particular topic of private defense, which is also very much essential if we take into consideration your Indian Penal Code also. So this was your right of private defense. Next is plaintiff is the wrongdoer. Now, one thing is very much important, which you must always remember, that one must go to the court with clean hands, which means that if you are going to the court and you are filing a suit against the defendant, then you yourself should not be at fault. So if in case a defendant is able to prove before the court that the plaintiff himself was the wrongdoer. In that situation, you cannot claim the damages from the defendant. So, this general defense is basically based upon your principles of equity, justice, and good conscience. And these three principles are very much rooted into the spirit of the court and our judicial system as well. So, this is the next easy defense, which is plaintiff is the wrongdoer. You cannot take advantage of your own wrong. And also, under various enactments, under various laws, there are many provisions which point out the same thing, that if you do something wrong, you cannot go to the court just for compensation or damage and compensation from the other party. Next offence is when the act is done under statutory authority. So if the defendant proves before the court that the act was compelled upon him, it was done under some statutory authority, provided the work was done in good faith. In that situation, it is available as a defense. You cannot hold him liable for any injury or damages which might have resulted from his act. Next is the defense of mistake. Now remember, there are two kinds of mistakes: mistake of law, and second is mistake of fact. Now, mistake of law is never available as a defense, be it civil or criminal law, because there is also a legal maxim, that is ignorantia juris non excusat. That basically means ignorance of law is no excuse. A person is always required to be well aware of the laws which are governing him. If he does not know them and he does any act which contravenes any of the provisions of law, you cannot claim that you didn't know about that, because all our laws are published in your official gazette. So it is important that you must be well aware of your laws. And second is mistake of fact. Under law of torts, remember that mistake of fact is also not available as a general defense. Mistake of fact is a defense, you can say, under your IPC, but under your law of torts, mistake of fact is also not available as a defense. So mistake as a whole is not a general defense under law of torts. Mistake of law is not a defense either in civil proceedings, in civil suits or in criminal proceedings. And under torts, even mistake of fact is also not available as a defense. So this was all about the general defenses which are available. So if you liked it, then to hit the like button, share and subscribe. Also follow me on Instagram. I will include the link to my Insta page in the description box below. Thank you.